myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Morning all, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and Stu Penman. Mitch is on his way, he's just having a few technical issues, and it's World Cup Day, or in England it's known as Sunday, because, yeah, we didn't make the final, and it's not coming home. We did manage to raise some valuable money, though, for the food bank, and Stu has kindly sent me this photograph from yesterday. Somebody on the right there, very recognisable, Steve Hasty and Bill Corcoran from the food bank. Stu, tell us about this photograph.
Well, it came from you and John putting that slanderous picture of me on a t-shirt, but thankfully it never went to print. So I thought I'd better bid for it to stop someone wearing it and blackmail this, so I'm the rightful owner of it. And I've got a client who's a friend, Mr. Mohammed, who was he treated me and Mitch to the VIP bit in Riyadh last week. He's over in Bahrain and we're having bets on the football. And he kept choosing and I kept winning. And it started off at £50 and then it went to 100, then it went to 200, and I won like the 3 bets. So I said I'd give the money to the food bank. But then with it being, I was going to just send it direct to the food bank, but then I thought on a match day, Jamie Rubin doubles the money, doesn't he? And he matches anything that's in. So I asked Steve, I sent the money to Steve and asked him to put it into the food bank on match day, so the food bank would benefit from an extra £200 as well. So that was the reasoning behind not bidding on the show. That's why I did it on Twitter. And I sent the money to Steve on Friday, and he put it in the food bank yesterday, so they get £400 instead of £200.
Absolutely fantastic, mate. Well done, you. Great to see the food bank benefiting from another one of John from Q-Tex t-shirts. The man doesn't get enough praise, to be honest, but he came up with this idea in the middle of lockdown, and well done, John. Great idea. We've got a new one going up. The Supermac t-shirt will be up today, and if you bear with us, I'll just get you a little photograph of it, just so you see what it's like. There we go. Supermac t-shirt will be signed by Malcolm. That'll be your, it could be a late Christmas present to somebody or yourself. Get bidding on that on my Twitter today. And as I say, that will be signed by Supermac. Mitch, good to see you, mate. Sorting the tech issues out. We're going to, yeah, God knows what's going on with gremlins in the system. But we're going to start, first of all, with the breaking news last night on Craig Hope's Twitter, Stu, about Isaac. Some of us were hoping that he was going to at least be on the bench yesterday in the friendly, if not on the bench for Tuesday's big game against Bournemouth. Craig Hope's story last night, and he usually is fairly on the money, and we know he's got a decent relationship with the owners and has done since they arrived, that Isaac may not be available now until January. Now I've seen the Twitterati, if you like, all, doom and gloom and biggest waste of money, and this is why they were prepared to let him go for so little, etc. But I mean, is Eddie Howe just being cautious, Stu? Is it the right thing to do? Is it, what's your take on this? Is he going to be a bit of a flop?
I wouldn't have thought so. And it's very good of Craig to repeat the news that Mitch broke a couple of months ago when the injury first came about the severity of the tear. Was it grade 1 or something you said, Mitch?
I said it was grade 1, but it's almost certainly now a grade 2.
Yeah, and you said it would be longer. It would be after Christmas before he was even considered kicking a ball again. So I think if you've spent 60 million euros or 63 million euros on someone, you want to make sure that they're properly fit, because we're going to have a really exciting run in, and you want all your best players ready for it. And thankfully, the team have proven that they can't win games without him. So he'd be a welcome addition when he does come, but you want him there for a prolonged period, not just for 1 or 2 games and get injured again. So whether it's precautionary, whether it's kid games or whatever, it's the right way to go about it. If he's not 100%, and these small percentages do make a big difference in the Premier League. If he's not 100%, then they're right to give him the rest that is deserved. And if it's had a setback, fix him properly. And if it takes an extra month, it's better than bringing them back for a couple of games and losing them for 3 months. That's just the way I see it, anyway.
No, I agree with you, mate. I mean, ultimately, the guy is a top player, and we've got to get him right. And don't want to go back into the Steve Bruce realms where you just run it off. Get yourself back in there, son. It's not as if we're crying out for him at the moment, and I think it's just because there's a little bit of mystery surrounding Callum Wilson. But I mean, he returned from England international duty uninjured. So I don't think there's any great mystery around why Callum Wilson didn't feature in a friendly yesterday. But look, Mitch, it's one of them, isn't it? It's Twitter will always give you the warped side of some of the fan base, I guess. People overreacting.
Well, as everybody knows, I like the American football, and I chat quite a lot with a guy called Dr. Jesse Morse, who you'll see us talk on Twitter sometimes, and he runs a YouTube channel called The Fantasy Doctors, with regards looking at American football injuries and trying to predict how they're going to work out for fantasy teams and for betting. And it all boils down to if you misdiagnose the initial level of injury, mistreat it, you can be in big trouble. The biggest one I can think of at the minute is Michael Thomas, the wide receiver from New Orleans Saints. He was misdiagnosed with how bad his ankle sprain was, had the wrong treatment in the first place, and he's ended up missing 2 full seasons. All because everything was done wrong in the first place. And so we are right to be cautious, because the most commonly recurring injuries are hamstring strains, thigh strains, and ankle sprains. They're the top 3. And so if that's been misdiagnosed in the first place, like it sounds like it was, they brought him back a bit too quick and it's gone again. And then they're now in a protocol for a grade 2. Grade 2's 8 to 10 weeks. And that takes you well into the new year. And it always did. But the level of injury reporting, like I've said before, time and again, within the Premier League is quite rubbish, really. He's got a knock. Well, what does that mean? He's tweaked his ankle. Well, what does that actually mean? And if you're talking about sort of proper handling of difficult injuries, if there's any doubt that he's going to do what he did before, i.e. get back onto grass, as they like to say, bless you, get back onto grass, as they like to say, and then get back into training properly, and then it goes again. Well, that's not good for us. It's not good for the player, and it's a mess. So I'd rather we were cautious and we're getting back fully fit and proper, and then we've got him. Bearing in mind, with this window, there's a lot more games left after January than usual, and so it's more important that he's back fit for that run of games, because they're going to come thick and fast. From mid-January all the way at the end of the season, they're going to come thick and fast. So I'd rather have him right and not stress about it than risk taking the chance of bringing him back too quick.
Yeah. What did we learn from the friendly yesterday then, Stu? I was there. It was cold, but there was 34,000 there, which is slightly more than Sunderland had for the last league game. But ultimately for me, I'll tell you what I learned. I learned how valuable Chris Wood is going to be in the second half of the season, because although, and again, I do speak to Malcolm after every match, before and every game, he's not a Chris Wood fan. I still think he's going to be vital in this run-in, especially with this injury to Isaac. I learned again that, Eddie Howe is shrewd by not even risking Wilson yesterday. I learned that Kieran Trippier wants to play every bloody game, and he'll come off when he wants to come off. But he's, even a friendly like that, he takes it, really, really seriously. If Newcastle qualify for Europe, I think they're going to be more than equipped. With a few more additions, they're gonna shock a few teams in Europe, because that was a good performance against a pretty steady La Liga team, and also that Botman is clearly his number one centre half, and there is still the trust in Lascelles, which we know from what he said across in Riyadh. Eddie Howe praised Lascelles, and I would imagine that Lascelles may start on Tuesday night. I learned that he's also a pretty good judge on Matt Targett. Wasn't Matt Targett's best game again yesterday? And I know that, because he's not playing week in, week out, that, your standards maybe are going to drop a little, but I think he's making the right decision by playing Burn at left back. Again, I'm not a professional manager, but I just learned so much from watching Eddie Howe's teams each week, and even just the friendlies that we've played in the last couple of weeks. And, you know, I feel like I'm learning more about him each game we play. But I'm really happy going into the second half of the season. The fitness levels were still there. The team are playing well. You know, and I learned a lot from yesterday's game. And it was, although it was cold and although it was a typical friendly, I did feel like I learned a lot yesterday. I thought Murphy was good. I thought Longstaff was solid again yesterday. And again, you know, Eddie Howe probably came off and was probably disappointed with the fact that they conceded a goal. But I thought, you know, I think most of us were expecting Carrius to start yesterday. But he went with Nick Pope in goal. So I was positive. I came away from a lot of positive. What did you learn from the game?
Well, I thought it was a good run out. The intention was there to give the people minutes who needed minutes, and the starting lineup took most people by surprise. You know, it was quite a strong starting lineup, and it shows that the belief of how is right. Why would I give people play games they aren't playing? And these people, there's going to be 2 games or 3 games in a week, starting on Tuesday, isn't it? You've got the Bournemouth, then Leicester, then Leeds, and he's going to have to utilise the squad. He's not going to be able to play the same 11 for each game. But there should be no mystery regarding Wilson. We all know that he's injury prone, or he's likely to pick up a knock. And in a meaningless friendly, I think it's again good management not to start him. Same with Almiron. There was no hoo-ha why he wasn't there. Sharwey was carrying a niggle from the World Cup. Fraser wasn't playing. There was a few who weren't involved who may have been in the squad, but who else wasn't there? Anderson, he wasn't in the squad either. But I think it was also a reward for the kids, for the youngins, to put them on the bench and get them to sample a bigger crowd. And you know, a few of them had a run out in Riyadh and applied themselves quite well. So it's a way of saying, look, it's a taster for them, but it also gives us minutes. And like yourself, I thought Carrius would have started. Thinking he may have started the League Cup game, but by starting Pope, it shows that they've come. Him and Trippier have come back, and we want to play. You know, they didn't get much minutes. Well, Trippier had a couple of games, but Pope didn't get any minutes at all. So I would need to get back in action, and this is one game where you can get any rustiness he's got from just training all the time. He needs a real match time. So playing him in retrospect was actually a good move. You're right, I'm absolutely back on the money about our second captain, Mr. Trippier, because you just thought, right, it's precautionary, take him off, get him rested, and he was like, no, I'm not coming off, I don't want to come off. I'm okay now, you know, the magic sponge got applied, and he had a little rub of the groin, and off he went. And again, he played well. There was a few people, again, you got the normal industry from Sean Longstaff. I thought Murphy seems to have improved a lot over the last 6 weeks or so. He seems to understand the role better now, what's needed, and it's quite clear he's more confident and feels part of the team, where in the past he may have felt a bit part player. Now he feels part of the squad, and because he's had a run of games, it's like, yeah, I can do this. ASM in flashes was exceptional, but then he still has this ability to infuriate, you know, with sitting down and hobbling and things like that. But he is improving what's required of him team-wise, and his judgment's getting better on releasing the ball, etc. But what we have, I think what Eddie Howe's doing into him and the whole squad as well, if someone makes a mistake, you know, you praise them. You know, the professional players, they'll know they've made a mistake. They don't need someone waving the arms about Ronaldo-esque. And you know, like lambasting one of the colleagues, you know, it's like you just give them a round of applause and good pass or good attempt and get back into it. So that's I actually thought Rio Valenco, is it? Valenco, I thought they were poor yesterday. The passing was awry, and it did have a feel of a friendly. Newcastle showed the extra intensity, and I think they could have won a lot more comfortable. And yes, I was sitting on a 3-1 win, and so when Wood dispatched the penalty coolly as you wanted, and you just knew he was going to score it. It was, and I seen a few quotes about Wood, like, oh, he didn't run. If he was fast, I would have got that. He wasn't bought to be a speed merchant. You know, he was bought to batter the centre halves, hold the ball up, bring other people into play, and he does all that. You know, I think he applies himself quite well. And sometimes, I know we've mentioned this before, sometimes the fans need a boom boy, they need someone to target, and it's Wood. Was he worth 25 million? No, he wasn't. But if you look at the fact that his role he played in us at the end of last season, that's worth a lot more than 25 million, because we might have been sitting third in the Championship now instead of third in the Premier League. And not just his goals that were important, but his contribution. And as like you, I believe him playing last season got us an extra 10, 15 yards up the pitch, which took a lot of pressure off the defence. And it's football, like most sports, is confidence. And that gave us the confidence to go on the like the ball's not going to come straight back. He'll knock it up, he'll hold it up, bring other people in, and that's what it did. So all in all, it was a good run out. It was a nice warm up to go on the back of last week's, which was slightly warmer than yesterday, I can imagine. But I still think we'll comfortably dispatch Bournemouth, and then it's bring on Leicester on Boxing Day.
Yeah, Mitch, I guess the result for me as well was important because it keeps the run going. And, I know it's not a competitive game, but, a 5-0 win against Al Hilal, a win against, Rio yesterday, it keeps that momentum going. Newcastle are used to winning now.
Absolutely. And by the evidence of yesterday, because I was able to watch the whole thing on my magic box, which gets even more magic by the week. It was quite clear we had more gears to go through. We really needed it. It's another really good example of how wants to involve the younger players and get them brought in like you did in Riyadh. Like you say, winning's a habit, and it looks like it's become a very nice habit for us. And so you're right. Momentum, in some respects, results and things in friendly games are never really that important, but they help keep that momentum running, and doing it in a lot of ease against, like Stu says, who are usually a tidy league, La Liga side. They usually, make it difficult for everybody. And to be honest with you, we had the run of the midfield for that first half quite easily. I still think he's looking at combinations and options. I'm still not convinced, like Supermac, that Shelby and Longstaff are terribly helpful for each other in the centre of midfield. But you can pick at things all day long. At the end of the day, hopefully Eddie's got out of the 2 friendly games what he wants. We've got miles in the legs of some players who needed it. I think Botman looked less rusty yesterday than he did in Riyadh in the first 10 minutes. And I think this, again, all helps towards this first game against Bournemouth, and then hit the ground running, hopefully.
Yeah, let's hope so. And bigger game coming up, of course, on Tuesday, which we'll have a chat about. A couple of questions coming in, and Mitch has just touched on it, Stu, about Shelby from Adam Garrity here, who's watching us today. He says, "What's everyone's opinion on John Joe's performance yesterday?" For me, Shelby is still a baller. He does put a lot more effort in than he probably was doing under previous managers. He's not the future, but for now, he's another option, Stu. That's my opinion. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. He's a squad player at best now. He's not in the starting 11. A few of his passes do go missing, but some of them are really. We know what he's capable of on his best, but he hasn't got the engine to get up and down the pitch like this front foot team is. So he'll if he does play, it's because there's other people missing, and I think as the windows pass, players will be recycled out, and I think he may be one of them. I think he'll be important for this season because he is good cover. But I wouldn't have him in the start 11, and I think sometimes going forward, when he makes the right pass, he actually makes passes other people can't make, and that's the plus side of it. The disadvantage is his lack of mobility and ability to get back, and this is where he tends to sit deeper, so he doesn't have to get back, and that leaves the gap in the middle. Strangely, which Bruno fills in, but we know we've got him in the middle, don't we? So the engine's there for Bruno. It's not there, and it never has been for Shelby. He's never been an athlete in that way, and that his role wasn't there. It was more of the quarterback role that people mentioned. But this quarterback role is not needed for the way this team's playing. And just to clarify, I don't know if you can see this badge, not this one here. It's not a Sunderland badge, if I can put it on. It's a Bahrain badge. So just in case anyone thought it's because it's Bahrain National Day today, so that's why I'm at work without my suit on. And that's the background. You don't have a Christmas tree, you've got a blackboard because I'm in the meeting room. So that I just want to clear up because I'm sure there'll be someone that will mention, oh, you've got a Sunderland badge on. It's Bahrain National Day, so I'm aware of it for the colleagues. But Shelby, yeah, squad player at best, and you know, would he be in anyone's starting 11? I wouldn't have thought so now. But you need to give him the minutes as well. He could quite possibly play on Tuesday because you can imagine Bruno getting a little bit longer. But Bruno is very much like Nick Pope and, well, the England players, not Nick Pope, Trippier and Wilson. They're itching to get back in. They want to be playing as soon as possible. So it would be my belief that Bruno will have a few days with the wife and child, and then look, I want to be playing and get back into training. But I think Tuesday may come too quick for him. So it's important that Shelby had a run up to blow some cobwebs off.
Yeah, Jody Toombalay says, I thought John Joe played well considering he plays balls others can't or won't. Yes, it's a risk at times, but the rewards can be high. Yeah, I mean, squad player, Mitch, really, isn't he? You know, but a one which can change a game.
He's hit the nail on the head about John Joe there. That's exactly what I was going to say. He's got the frustrating ability to play balls that nobody else can. And he's got the ability to see things that sometimes other players don't see. So he ends up coming out looking bad when he's played the ball. Whereas if a player switched on and made the move that he was hoping they would make, it would have been, you know, a fantastic ball. That's the frustration with him. I know he's been working hard on getting the weight down and up in the athleticism because that's what Eddie Howe wants of the midfielders. He wants athleticism and he wants more than that quarterback role that you talk about. And you can't deny he fills the squad out nicely, and he's at least, we know what we're getting with him if we've got to put him into a situation. There's no mystery there. And he knows what Eddie Howe wants out of him in terms of the roles that he's going to be dropped into. I think we just need to sort of stick with it this season and then see where we go from there. I think, for me, yes, squad player. Will he force his way into the starting 11? Probably not.
No, I don't think he will at all. A couple of questions. One for you, Stu, from Tom says, is there any good football teams in Bahrain?
Not really, no. I've been to a couple of games, but the Bahrain national team won the GCC Cup. There's like 8 teams that played it. They won that a couple of years ago, which was a big surprise. And what's really nice about Bahrain is they look after the people. The entrance to the ground is free. So I went to watch them play Iran, and as we know, Iran are a decent team, qualified for the World Cup, and they beat Iran 1-0. And it was a huge achievement. Even on the bookies odds, they were 30-2 to win the game at home, and they beat them 1-0. So that was good. But the standard themselves, no, it's a small country. There's population's only about 1.7 million people, and more than half of that is expats. So they don't have a huge pool to pick from. It's probably like the size of Newcastle. If you look at the Bahrainis that could play for Bahrain, and half the year it's too bloody hot to play as well, isn't it? So you don't get the opportunity as much as you should. But they've got a competitively. There's a lot of like local towns that are nearby, and so you get a few derby games and stuff like that. But it's not the biggest place to say. They've got club sides. You wouldn't have said they're good, and you'd probably think their best club side would be probably the old 4th division, 2nd division now. Their best club side would probably be that standard. So that answers that one for Tom.
All right, and the question from Gary is for both of you. He says, question for Stu and Mitch, are you cards men or dominoes?
Oh, if we're playing for money, cards. But dominoes used to be. You could play dominoes in the bar on a Sunday, didn't you? You could have the pub Olympics. You could play dominoes and then pool and then darts. And that was the Sunday pub Olympics in between the matches being on. No, I'd pick cards over dominoes.
Mitch?
That's a question for George is on there. That's a question for us, George. Not for us,
Yeah.
George's.
He's busy with Marjorie at the minute, but he says it's good to see you back in harness, Neil. So that's from your dad. But yeah, your cards or dominoes, mate. I've got to be honest. I'm neither, mate.
I brought up with both, but my mum's side of the family were all dominoes, and my dad's side of the family were all cards. Definitely a cards man, though.
Okay,
Definitely
there we go. Morning, George, from Gary. He says, also known as Google. He definitely is. Kenny asks what we thought of Willock yesterday. At times, it seemed his pass was ahead of the game and other players were not switched on to his thinking. I've got to agree. Yeah, I think you're right, Kenny. Sometimes he looks as if he's, thinking ahead of other players around him. The work rate's there, the effort's there. He doesn't get the end results. And I think we got spoilt a little bit with Willock on that loan when he came to the club. And he went on that wonderful scoring run. But yeah, look, I genuinely think he will, continue to play. I think he just gives us a different option, Stu.
Yeah, I like Willock. I like his energy. He always looks knackered after about 10 minutes, but at the end, he's one of the ones doing the most running. And I think that's just in his genetics or his makeup. But the way I think he carries the ball when he's running with it better than anyone in the team. He's direct with it. And I know I've mentioned it earlier that no defender likes someone running at them at speed. But sometimes he looks like he hasn't got control of the ball when he has, and that could just be his running style. But that's not a slight on him. It's good because it gets the defenders guessing. And a couple of times he did that yesterday, and he played a pass. Sometimes it might have looked like it was overhit, but it was only overhit because the other person didn't read what he was trying to do and slowed their run down and stopped their run. But it's a friendly game. These things happen, and I'm sure they'll click into practice properly when they're playing the full games. But now Willock's he's played better as the season's gone on. Again, it's another player whose confidence with a run in the team when there was calls for it to be dropped, etc. The manager showed his man management skill, getting his arm around him and saying, "Look, you're going to be playing the next X amount of games," and he's growing into it, growing into the role. So you can't complain about Willock now, whether he's still there playing regularly at the end of the season or the start of next season. Again, it's a debate, but you can debate that about all starting 11 just about. I think there's only about 2 or 3 you could say will definitely be starting next season with the amount of people who'll be linked with. You could only say, you could imagine Pope, Botman and Bruno would be the nail down, and that's your spine. And then after that, everyone else is up for grabs for start 11.
Mitch, Willock, he's not everyone's star player, but he's a vital part, a vital cog in the team for me.
I think everybody's woken up to the work rate he puts in, that Stu's talking about. I think some people didn't pick up on the level of effort he stuck through some games when people say, he's not really doing very well, but he covered every bloody blade of grass and ran his legs off. And like I say, he must be 2 inches shorter than he was when he started the season, because he really put some miles in the first part of the season when we were missing players with injury. And so I think people are saying that. I think sometimes, I thought this in Riyadh as well, I thought he seemed to be one of the few who was still at the same pace and was thinking a little bit quicker than everybody else on the pitch. And maybe that was the case yesterday too. Maybe some of them are still getting up to speed where he's just hit the ground running properly. Because I thought that in Riyadh, he sometimes wasn't taking up positions and people didn't see him. And he was picking up some really nice positions and they just couldn't find him or see him doing it. And I think yesterday as well, some of the balls he played, people should have been more switched on when he was letting the ball go. So again, bodes well for going back into the real action, that we've got somebody who's already on pace mentally and physically.
Yeah, definitely. As you know, on the professionals, we have a look at what Mike Tyson is wearing and how many football clubs Mike supports.
Cool. Class act, buddy.
Here he is today, supporting Manchester United. The Red Devil.
How many of these have you got?
Oh, believe you me, mate. I wouldn't have made it a segment if I didn't have enough to go around. I cannot believe how many clubs this guy supports. But there we go, Mike Tyson again, a Manchester United fan this week. So if you've seen a photograph of Mike Tyson in a football strip, send them over to us. Halfway through the show, time for the lads to go and have a quick smoke or a quick cuppa. It's the ad break. A big thanks to all our sponsors. First off, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists. You can find them at thegohd.com. And thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces. They are handmade in Cumbria, and you can find more information out on their website, mrvickies.co.uk. And if you want to order any, email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Big thanks to Blowhole Brewery, a new beer made on Tyneside. The cans are all designed in the colours of Newcastle United's strips from days gone by. Black and white there, the purple and blue, and the good old-fashioned blue from the Entertainers' days. But get more information on the Blowhole Brewery range, such as Geordie Juice, from blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things and video side of things. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who do our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you want to subscribe to the show, then all you need to do is click the subscribe button below. You can also hit the thumb up, which does us a favor, by liking the video, and click share to your social media, such as Twitter and Facebook. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify and the rest. And if you want to contribute to the show, use the QR code. It takes you straight to the membership pack and you can join the channel. What do you get for your membership pack? You get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. You can also make a donation by hitting the $sign in the chat tonight. We also give you something for free if you subscribe to the show. To get your car sticker, email john@nufcmatters.com and he will post you one out. We also support the food bank on this show. And if you want to make a virtual donation to the food bank, then go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. On our website, we've got lots of t-shirts, cups, pens, you name it, memorabilia, if you want to buy it and support the show. For Christmas, we have the Bruno Christmas jumper, which is selling rather well. And we'll have the bobble hats, Play Like Almiron, Bruno's Magic, and Bruno's 39 and Joe Linton's J7. Get yourself to nufcmatters.com to buy them today. If you want to buy people a ticket for one of our events next year, we've got an evening with Steve Howie, which is Friday the 24th of February at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £50 from nufcmatters.com or newcastlelegends.com. And you can also buy them on voucher before Christmas. Get somebody a bargain and a nice Christmas present. Peter Beardsley is on the 10th of February at St. Dom's Catholic Club in Newcastle. Tickets available direct from the venue. And for this one, Friday the 2nd of June next year at the Grand Hotel in Gosforth, 6:30 start. An evening with Rob Lee, Lee Clark and John Beresford. To book tickets, contact Natalie at healandtour.org.uk or visit their website healandtour.org.uk/events. If you're looking for a Christmas present and people like a book, then get yourself NME from the Bender Squad to the Gremlins, or the last remaining copies of Black or White, No Grey Areas, Lee Clark's autobiography, and you can get them from www.badboysbooks.net.
Only way.
Breaking news from England's headquarters, and that is that Gareth Southgate is staying on as England manager until 2024. So lots of comments had already come in at the start of the show, which I was going to come on to. Chip, as it said, morning all, what do you make about Southgate staying on? It shows we have no ambition to win things and we'll settle for second best. Les says, regarding Southgate, all well and good if starts and rebuilds without the usual suspects added to the squad because of loyalty instead of form or talent. Would prefer to see good team as opposed to individuals. I know you're a Scotland fan, Stu, but just your take, you know, on Southgate staying on. I mean, I personally think it's the right thing to do. I've ummed and ahed about it on here, but I think it's probably the right thing to do. He's got to a semi-final. He's got to a final. Yes, the quarter-final was a disappointment this time round, but ultimately, I still think he's got, you know, the players are still very confident in his abilities, and unless there's somebody out there who they think they can bring in, why change something that seems to be working still?
Well, I agree with both the comments there. Are they settling for second best? Is he being too like the players? He can be guilty of both. But if you look at this World Cup, because it's not finished yet, the people he were loyal to were probably his better performance. You know, Maguire and Stones seemed solid enough at the back. And, you know, Henderson got a lot of criticism when he came in, but he played well. And again, Sterling had a good first game, and Saka, people were saying they shouldn't be playing, and they did play well. And I wasn't surprised that he stayed on. I mean, if it was his decision, not many people, I think, what's he on 120 grand a week, 6 million a year? Who's going to walk away from that anyway? He's not going to get any more flack than he's received every tournament. You know, he gets an easy ride, doesn't he? Then the tournament starts and the abuse starts. You know, there's no middle ground with it. And even if he won something, he'll still say, well, they should have won something 2 years ago or 4 years ago or 6 years ago. So then you have to start looking at replacements, and realistically, who could replace them? You've got the outcry, it should be an English manager. I don't understand why it should be. But saying that, Scotland got 30 votes once, and that was a disaster. So, but if it should be, it's a job. It should be one of the most sorted or coveted jobs in world football, being the England national manager, considering this is where the game was invented, etc. And the salary that goes with it. You know, you get a great pool of players to pick from. So would Southgate just give that up? I wouldn't have thought so. I think he just needed a bit of time to collect these thoughts and think, right, can I go again in 2 years' time? And I wouldn't be surprised in 2 years' time he gets a 2-year extension within that period. Because then there's, well, build up the World Cup to a really new manager coming in. But which manager would you pick? Eddie Howe made it clear that his interest is in club football, and he's put so much effort into this project now just to walk away for something that's really is a no-win situation unless you get the top prize. The other great hope for the English managers was Potter, who's went to Chelsea. Had he still been at Brighton, that you can imagine the press pushing that. But at Chelsea, they wouldn't press for one of their players, one of their managers, one of the top 6 managers to get the job. I'm sure they would. Then you've got Pochettino, who's been linked. And you think, well, could he do it? Then Tuchel, I think Tuchel, yeah, he understands tournament football, etc. But I think he wants another hands-on job as well. There's one name that I'll throw in that'll probably split opinion as well. But one person who is available who could do it, and I think would do a good job at it, and at his age would actually probably suit him, would be Rafa. He understands the Premier League very well, and he knows how to do football. If you look at what he's done and what he achieved with Liverpool, they won the Champions League with him, they won a few cups with him. He knows what's required, and his knowledge of European football is vast. So if they were getting rid of Southgate now, I would have thought Rafa would have been an astute appointment by the FA, with it being the European Championships that's coming up. But Southgate's decided to stay on. Will Rafa be in the job or even want the England job in 2 years' time? I don't know. But that's who I think should have got it had Southgate decided to walk, or indeed if he was pushed.
Mitch, what do you reckon about him staying on?
I think without a very obvious replacement, it seemed to be a fait accompli. Me, it was always gonna stay. The FAL constantly pointed his record, which on paper looks great. You know, and you can't deny that. I know football's played on grass, but on paper the record is fair enough. Other than South Ramsey, he's probably our most successful tournament manager. My problem with Southgate is twofold. One, he's not brave enough, and two, He has this track record of sticking with his favourites at times when they're not performing. He says he picks on form, he genuinely doesn't, in my opinion. And I think that splits and divides too many of the fans. It makes it very, very difficult then for him to back his own words up when he sticks with somebody who's out of form and they don't perform, and then turns around in the next breath and says he's picking on form. He just tries himself in knots. I don't have an issue with the guy. The guy's a nice enough bloke, and there's no doubt he cares about England as he did as a player. But to me, there's not a genuinely obvious replacement out there either. So yeah, run with it through to the next competition and see where we'll go from there, I think.
Yeah, Roger Cook mentions yesterday, he says fair play to the away fans yesterday. We actually got invaded at the Dog and Parrot yesterday when we were doing the pre-match talking with Supermac by all of the fans. They all came together. Great bunch of lads. So yeah, good bunch of lads there came in to see us, and that's what football's all about, lads. At the end of the day,
Brilliant.
Seeing supporters from other parts of the world, especially European football. I can't wait for that to come back. But I hope they have a safe journey back. Really, really good to see them, and Malcolm took that in good spirits. Who do you think will be sold in January? Says Sefton Mag. That's a good question. What do you reckon, Stu? Anybody or nobody?
Sold or leaving, well, if you're bringing players in, or one player or two players in, then they need a squad number, don't they? So you need to release people from the squad. And I'm sure we talking about this a couple of weeks ago. There's three players all capable of covering left back and all not getting in the squad, and that's Richie, Lewis, and Dummett. You know, so you can say, right, take two of those out if you're bringing people in, because you have to. Yes, I am drinking water. I'm at work, Gary. He's asking me. In a Muslim country, of course, I'm drinking water at work. Well, that's their thinking water. What's inside it may be different, but so there's obvious replacements. You know, we'll keep talking about if you're improving the top, the bottom gets squeezed out, and I think if we all put teams into or players into groups, you know, you've got the irreplaceables, the blue chips, etc., etc. And then it comes down to the squad fillers, who have been important to integrate the new signings in. You know, the people like Dummett and Richie, etc. I think they've been integral behind the scenes, and this is why I think Eddie Howe was keen to keep them, but also for him to show a bit loyalty. But there's rumours that Fraser wants away to get first team football, and that you can look at that either way. You know, he wants first team football, or he realises he's not good enough to get into the Newcastle starting 11, and that position for him is only going to get more difficult if Newcastle had another wide player in the next window. So fair play to him if someone's going to pay his wages and get him go. So there's another person if it's a like for like swap. So that's four I've mentioned already. So whether they sell them or just give them away or get them off the books is a different matter. But even in the summer, they could have got money for people and they didn't. You know, Gale, you could easily have got 5 million for, and Kieran Clark as well. You could have got a couple of million quid for him quite easily, and he's doing a good job at Sheffield United as well. He's been getting rave reviews from their fans, and so there was 3 or 4 that left that they could have even got over 10 million in. But at the end of the day, it was like, look, we need to make changes now, and you don't want people hanging around who aren't part of the squad. And Richie, Lewis, Dummett, are any of them realistically going to be long-term starters for Newcastle? No. So out of those 3, you'd keep at least one to be cover. And you've got Byrne already there. You've got Target there who can both play that role. Manquillo can play that role if required. And you've got Kraft coming back. So that there is spaces to improve the squad. So I can see people going out as well, but not to the detriment of the squad. You know, they're not going to get rid of 5 players and only bring 2 in. So it'll be phased out. I think you'll find a bigger transition in the summer when they've got longer to go at it.
Do you agree with Stu, Mitch?
The list of players you kind of disagree with. You know, pretty much the players I would run through and say, look, these are the ones who would be at risk. If people were interested, people wanted to pick their wages up and pay a fee for them. They've already used the phrase 1 in, 1 out over January. So that would seem to be the plan. So, yeah, you kind of disagree with everything that Stu said there. Really, he's summed up quite nicely and covered the players who are at risk. Eddie's obviously keen to keep that harmony in the background, and I think that's why some players have been kept around, and why some players, if they looked like they were going to disrupt that harmony, were allowed to go, like Dubravka out on loan, for example. I suspect the mood was that he was going to be bothered if he was still around the camp. So on you go, sunshine. Whilst people question keeping certain people around, well, I think that's probably because they do add to the harmony in the squad. There's certainly, again, people are mentioning keepers. Yes, we've got a surfeit of keepers now. What do we do with Karius? What do we do with Darlow? What do we do with Gillespie? So there's a lot of things to look at and take into account, but the statement 1 in, 1 out will definitely says to me there will be outgoings.
Somebody saying that was Chippers in the chat saying Steve Bruce for Scotland.
Yeah, of course. You enjoy the food in the chip shops anyway. Everything's battered. You get kebabs on and everything. You'd love it there.
I got sent this on Twitter as well.
People would love it.
William King sent us this, Stu. He goes, I couldn't watch your show live the other night, so I couldn't leave a comment, but here's a picture of the World Cup song that Stu was talking about. He's right. It is a good one.
Well, King Billy says it's right, so we have to agree with him. Oh, sorry, William King. King Billy said that. So. It was always a good song back in the day. You should know all the words. I probably still could, but I'm not going to recite them to a public audience anyway. Something else Chipper said there was regarding the goalkeepers. He's right as well. And taking Mitch's 1 in, 1 out theme, Karius is already in, and I believe Darlow would get a decent wage. So, a decent fee. So you can have Karius as the backup and keep Gillespie there as well. He's a local lad who's, he could be part of the welcoming committee if you want to, not to be a disrespectful phrase. And again, the squad would strengthen. So if Karius is going to stay, they have to give him a squad number, don't they? So he has to take one of the goalkeepers. Why not Darlow and get some money for him? We keep mentioning no room for sentiment, and that's what we have to show. Some people will be surplus to requirement. Some people on the pitch, yes, they'll be surplus to requirements, I would imagine.
Yeah. Okay, Gary Milligan says, morning Steve, morning Stu, morning Mitch. Does Mitch or Stu what apparently Newcastle fans aren't ready for, according to our owners, if that makes sense? Please?
Mitch?
I suspect they're referring to what they're going to do in the summer. That's the inference I took from the whole piece that was trotted out, is that they've got some big plans for the summer and we might not be ready for it. So I think it's not ready for something good, not ready for something bad, that's for sure.
Yeah. There'll be accumulation of things, won't there? There'll be like sponsors being announced, new training ground, possibly ground redevelopment, new players coming in. And again, just to drop the names, when Mitch and myself were speaking with our chief executive, I was cheeky enough to say, like, how much are we going to spend? And basically the reply was as much as feasibly possible. They're not going to shy away from spending the money, but they won't court any controversy with financial fair play. So that doesn't mean, like, if they've got 80 million to spend this window, they'll spend 80 million, but they're capable of spending it. A phrase that Mitch has used more often than not is the situation will be fluid, and if the right player comes available at the right price or even slightly higher than what they deem as the right price, they'll go and get them, especially the position that we're in now. Again, my knowledge of how the wealthy Saudi businessmen do business, then they won't wait and hope that things will keep progressing. They'll do as much as they can to make sure they keep progressing. So it's exciting times. So that's what I believe that phrase was about. So it's one of those hold on to your hats, but in a positive way. You're not going out to play football in a blustery wind. You're going on a waltzer at the Hoppins. It's going to be right fun. You're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, Mitch. I mean, it's just exciting to be a Newcastle fan. We'll keep saying that. from our perspective, but the changes that we're going to see, over the next year, the next 2 years, I think they'll be phenomenal.
I think anybody who heard the comments in Riyadh and then had a chance at the game to talk to some of the key figures as well, who were very open. There was no shying away from something. And me and Stu had a laugh with Darren Heels when we said, well, so what do you think? And he says, well, 100 days in the job, we've just won something, I'm off, I'm done. There's not many chief executives would joke with fans like that and be that open and that communicative and that excited. He was properly excited. And I think this is what we've come back from Riyadh with. Anybody that was out there couldn't help be enthused by it all. There was so much there to like. The feedback from Howe and the coaching staff, the feedback from the players. Those 3 players sat and gave really honest answers, and you can see why Jacob Murphy's kept around. He's a real character. You can see why Sean Longstaff is liked by just about every man and his dog, and you can see why Lascelles is still a leader and still a really mature young man and a lovely guy to speak to. There was so much came out of that, and I think going forward, if that's going to be bottled and then passed around, we're in for a really exciting time.
We are. Barry says here, I put comments on a Facebook page about selling ASM and getting a more consistent replacement. I got slagged off by Toon fans, basically saying he will be brill second half of the season. What's your thoughts? Barry, it's funny because I never mentioned him, did I, when I talked earlier about what I thought about the game. And funnily enough, neither did any of the other lads. I did mention him last night when I was out with Steve Hasty and John and Keith, etc. after the game. I thought he let himself down. I thought yesterday he should have been, he should have been really making his play to get back into the squad, get back into the team, sorry. I don't think he did enough. I think the first half he did his usual, flattered to deceive. In the second half, he was anonymous. I can't. I'd be very surprised if he starts on Tuesday. I just don't think he did enough. But Eddie Howe's decision, Stu.
Well, I did mention earlier that he was brilliant at times and mesmeric at times, but then equally frustrating at times as well. And what was it that what was it Barry asked?
Well, he's just saying that he went onto a Facebook page and he basically was criticised when he said that he felt that ASM should be sold, but a lot of people are saying you've got to keep him. He'll be brilliant in the second half of the season.
Yeah, well, if you recall a few months back, I actually praised him for giving toys out to children, and it got cropped and I got loads of abuse. And it really, really worried us, and I was so frightened. Even yesterday, someone was still trying to refer to that to cause a bit of trouble. But I talk about the performances on the pitch, not what they do off the pitch. And if people want to do the charity things, I think it's amazing, it's fantastic. And it's great that the players go and visit the hospitals as they should do. But his performances on the pitch can be frustrating. And if you're playing Shelby in the team where other people have to be the legs for him, then you can't play St. Maximin in the same team for Eddie Howe. And that's just my personal opinion, because you can't have people covering for other people. You need people like Jacob Murphy, shown might not have the talent of St. Maximin, but he's willing to do the work required, in which the defence starts from up front. And if Maximin's sitting on his backside, throwing his hands in the air because he got tackled, and 2 players are attacking whoever's the left back, whether it be Dan Bird or Target, then we're missing out because Joe Elton can't cover 2 or 3 people at the same time. So it leaves a hole. I get the whole argument that there's no one more exciting when he's on the ball, but then you look at the end products and you think, well, who got more balls into the box that reached players? If it was it Murphy or was it St. Maximin? Is St. Maximin the most talented player skills-wise? Absolutely is. He do things with football that even his colleagues would dream of being able to do. But is he going to start performing like how Miggy's performed? And a winger, whether it doesn't matter if it's Miggy, it doesn't matter if it's because he had more abuse than Maximin's ever had. People be critical of his style of play, and that's their opinion. If people want to defend him, that's also their opinion. But what wingers should be judged on is crosses and goals and assists. And that's it. Ginola didn't track back, so we can't really level that at St. Maximin. But at the same time, the team Ginola played in never won anything. This team wants to win something and believes it will and probably will win something. So I can see why Barry gets abused, because he's got a very good social media team and he does a lot of right things, and I'm sure he does enjoy his time in Newcastle. He is hero worshipped by a lot of people, but I still think maybe he gives more assists and more goals on that wing, and if we got a similar style on that wing who's willing to also put the hard yards in and cover and track back, then you could have what I've alluded to previously, that ASM will be then seen as an impact player off the bench, and whether his ego will allow that to happen and he'll want to move from after that, I don't know. But will he play regularly? I can't see. You see how the team's performed in his absence, and the three I mentioned, like Nick Pope, Botman and Bruno, these are the only three to me that if fit should play, should be guaranteed. You can throw Trippier into that for this season as well, but they're probably the only four that you say if they're fit to play. And then there's rotation-wise with Wilson and Wood, etc. I'm talking about starting every game. Those are the four that if should play every single game. So Maximin's not, and he was. That's the thing. It's a fall of grace, isn't it? He was. Everything revolved around him, and a lot of these issues are mental. It's like, I'm not the top dog anymore, but I can still be a big part of this team. But why should I do that? And that's entirely up to him, because he can be anything he wants to be.
Yeah, Mitch, you're nodding your head there, and I agree with everything Stu says. To be honest about ASM, I just genuinely think he's changed. He has changed. I tell you what, I've noticed as well. He's clearly trying to change, but sometimes it's just impossible. You can see opportunities where he gets through on goal, where he should just have a shot. He did it yesterday, and then he stops, he checks, and he passes, which is probably what he's been told to do. But I don't think he'll ever be able to change the way he plays.
I think I've said it before and I'll say it again. He's got enough talent to do what he wants to do, and it's entirely up to him what he does with his talent and where he goes with it. And he now seems to be not making the most of the opportunities. You hear people like Trippier saying how hard he is to play against on the training ground, and he said it now in 2 or 3 interviews. So again, it's all in his own hands. Whether he's now at the point where he's trying too hard and he's getting a bit desperate to show that he's been paying attention, like you say, passing when he's got an easier option to shoot, when in the past he probably would have just shot. I don't know. He will remain for me a total enigma and a massive frustration. I love him to bits, but I'm frustrated that we don't seem to be getting the best out of him at the minute, and I don't know how we square that circle.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing to talk about quickly really is just the Bournemouth Cup game on Tuesday. Thoughts on that, Stu? Quick prediction.
I'm confident that we'll win comfortably, and I'm even more confident that it'll be 3-1.
3-1.
Full strength would be more than that, but I can see us conceding, but 3-1.
And Mitch, same for you.
2-0. 2-0 for me. I think he's made his intention clear with the 2 friendlies about where he's going to go with the team, particularly with yesterday's bench in mind. And I think we'll look like we're going to hit the ground running nicely as he intends. And what a great way to do it before we go back into Premier League action.
Okay, this week, Gary Milliken was asking what the crack is with the shows. 7 o'clock tomorrow night, we'll do the fans forum. So if you want to jump on anybody, feel free to do so tomorrow night. Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock with Ross Gregory. No Geordie's here this week. Wednesday, we're going to do Ben Jacobs 10 till 11. I'm out on Wednesday night, so we can't do Geordie's here. Geordie's there, unfortunately. However, Thursday, Gibbo and Mal will be at the usual time of 6. Friday, because it's not Christmas Eve till Saturday, we're going to do the Amigos on Friday. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite the guys on from the other shows. So George, Stu, anyone who fancies jumping on the Amigos. We'll have a bit of a Christmas special on the Amigos. Everybody on having a bit crack. And that'll be the last live show for Christmas then. I've managed to set up some shows for you all the way through Christmas. And I'll be back live probably New Year's Day. If not, it'll be the 2nd. But you've got a show for each of those days. so we can all have a bit of time off, spend time with the family, etc. So that is your shows for the week. Thanks, Stu. Thanks, Mitch. Enjoy the World Cup final wherever you're watching it, and look forward to seeing you guys on Friday night for the Amigos.
Right.
Cheers, everyone.
Take care, lads.
Right.